Hey folks, happy Wednesday. Smoking my country gent with the last bowl of nightcap. I was listening to a podcast last night. They had a guest on. It was a guy named Tim Ferriss. He's written a number of books. And he's kind of one of those, people in business, corporate kind of world that gives advice and things like that on how to better manage your time, your life, your businesses, that kind of thing. Kind of, not a motivational speaker, but anyway, he's written a book about mentors. And what he did when he started writing this book, he came up with this huge list of questions that he wanted to ask people. And over the course of trying to figure out what to do with it, he narrowed it down to 11 questions. Instead of just asking a bunch of people different questions, he asked a lot of people these same 11 questions. Now, I want to read the book. I haven't read it. But he got some incredibly good and varied answers from all these different people, mostly people in the business world and stuff like that. But I thought I would ask these 11 questions over a few weeks, maybe daily, I don't know yet. In hopes of getting answers from you guys and just seeing what we've got to say about some of this stuff, and maybe we can, share this, through VRs or comments or whatever you want to do. Most of them aren't big, long, probing questions. Some of them are. And just see what we got to say. I bet we'll get some good answers, and some people can benefit from some of these. All of us, probably. So the day one question, and again, you can comment or do a VR, whatever you want to do, kind of like Maritime Piper's ongoing conversation kind of thread. So if you feel moved, please respond. I'd be very interested to see what you have to say. So today's question is, what is the book or books that you have most gifted to people? Or if you haven't gifted a lot of books to people, what are the books that you would most recommend that other people read, and why? What do you think they would get out of them? Another way to answer that would be, 1 to 3 books or whatever, how many ever you want to give, that you would say have most influenced your life. And how have they done that? So I've thought about this for a little bit. So some of the books that I've read that I think people should read for various reasons are I enjoyed them greatly, both. First one is Payne Stewart, the authorized biography. It's written by his wife, Tracy Stewart. And I think it's a very well-written book about a man's life that was misunderstood and that overcame a lot of obstacles and a lot of challenges and he did so in ways that changed his and other people's lives for the better. It was very difficult for me to read that book knowing what the end of it was going to be. But the end of it turned into more of a story about how Tracy and their family dealt with his death, and in a very real, constructive way. So that's one. Another one along the same lines is called Ben Hogan. They're both golfers. It's written by a guy named James Dodson. It's just a biography of Ben Hogan, but again, it's somebody that was very misunderstood when he was alive, faced some enormous challenges, and overcame them. And the way he did it, it talks about how he lived his life, how he thought, and what some of his thought processes were. It's a very well written book. Even if you just like golf, it's a very good book to read. But both of those are really good books. Another one on that list is called The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, written by a guy named Mitch Ablom, Ablom. It's an interesting book about a guy who dies and didn't think his life had much meaning. He was 83 years old. And when he gets to heaven, he meets 5 people that he encountered during his life on earth that basically tell him what his life was about, what it meant, and how he touched them in various ways. It's a very well written book. Another one, I think I read a lot of military history and stuff like that, and I think this is probably the best book that I ever read regarding Vietnam, the most misunderstood war in the history of mankind, I believe. Most other wars were pretty straightforward. If you ask people what Vietnam meant, you'll get all kinds of different answers. Why it was good, why it was bad, why we could never win it, why we should have won it, what it meant to the people of Vietnam, how ruthless they were, how ruthless we were. You just get the gamut. This book goes into the history of Vietnam. Starts out, way back. And it kind of gives you a great deal of insight into why things happened the way they happened. I thought it was very well written. I don't think I said who that was by. Vietnam, A History by Stanley Karnow, Karnow. If you're interested in learning more about the ins and outs of that, that's a very well worth your time. And the last one was a really, really wonderful book called Every Day I Fight. And it was written by Stuart Scott, ESPN on-air guy. He got cancer and battled it and beat it and battled it and beat it and back and forth and back and forth. He ended up dying. But it's a very honest, open book about his struggles and his triumphs, what was important to him and why, how he dealt with it. There's a lot to learn in that book. So those are 5 that I would recommend to just about anybody. So tell me what you got. What are some books that people should read, and why should they read them? Or, you can go back to the start of this video and read that question as it was written. I look forward to your answers, either in comments or VRs, however you want to do it. And I'll probably ask another question either tomorrow or in a couple of days, get a few responses to this one, maybe get a back and forth going on. So, hope there was something in there you could gain from it, and I hope you got something that other people can gain from this as well. Till next time, enjoy your pipe and ignore the hype.